good afternoon. Today we have a webinar for about 100 HR managers attending the PowerMax event, and the topic of our discussion today is the HR and labor policies under the new normal. The first part concerns employment and labor standards, and the second part is about labor relations and employee discipline and dismissal. So please visit my YouTube channel. Just type USEC JBJ and you can have a copy of the video and all other videos where you can learn labor laws and HR management from hiring to retiring. Saya mayong hapon kanatong tanan. During the pandemic, the crisis, I was able to write 7 books from February to July. So I have published a lot of books. Give me more time to focus on writing. So today we are going to discuss policy on employment and labor standards. As you are all aware, all of you, the labor code is composed of 7 books, but the 7 books can be classified into 4. The contents can be clustered into 4. One is employment, second is labor standards, and the third is labor relations. The fourth one is employment, post-employment, which includes discipline and dismissal. So the first subject that we will cover from 1 to 3:30 is employment and labor standards. We have I have a book on this, and I have a book on HR Forms 101. The PowerMax has supplies of these books, and so you can get copies of these books because all the things that I will discuss today are in this book in details, including the computations of overtime, holiday pay, 13th month pay, separation pay. These are all contained in Philippine HR Forms 101 from hiring to retiring. So the first part of our presentation will concern a lot of policies, and these are flashed on your screen. I will discuss them one by one, and so I will not mention this, just look at it. Anyway, we will take that up one by one. So there are many, 20 components of this presentation, and it will end up with an open forum and an integration. So if you want a free copy of this presentation in a video form, you can go to my YouTube channel, just type USEC JBJ, and you can get a copy of this video plus all other videos. There are many videos you can get for free. So all you have to do is subscribe. It's for free. No, there's no payment to subscribe. So you just subscribe, and then you can get the video that you want. So we start now with the fundamental policy and and basic principles. This crisis that we are facing today is very serious. Why? It started with a health crisis. It became an economic recession. Sooner it will become a social conflict and even social problems because people are demanding for ayuda and the government cannot provide enough. No? That's why the President will not extend the MECQ because the government has no more resources to give for the amelioration program. So most probably next week we will go back to not the old normal but the JCQ, which has a very relaxed system of control in our border and in the movement of people. As of today, worldwide, millions are infected globally. In the Philippines, companies have closed. They are engaged in retrenchment. I'm sure that some of you in the question and answer will ask about retrenchment, redundancies, labor-saving device, especially the small and medium enterprises, the micro and even the big ones. They have problems. They want to separate people. Okada terminated 1,000 employees. Philippine Airlines and Cebu Pacific are undertaking retrenchment programs. The hotel industry is practically devastated with 80% decrease in revenue. And therefore, there will be massive poverty and social chaos that may escalate into a conflict. Because according to the Department of Labor, 8 million lost their job from January to July, added to the more than 5 million before. So that would mean 13 million without means of livelihood if they are heads of family. That means that if you multiply 13 million by at least 4 members, that would be 52 million people who are going hungry in a population of 110. That is about one half of our people are suffering from massive poverty. But despite everything, work has to be done. In other words, you are representing companies that have to operate, because without operation there is no revenue. And while work has to be done, wages must be paid. And even if transport is not available, still the workers may continue working. In Laguna, there are a lot of factories that allow their workers to stay in the factory. But the problem is there is a considerable rise in infection rate in Laguna, like in Cavite, because these are the areas where we have a lot of establishments. So the principle of avail of leave first before no work, no pay. So the Department of Labor in the advisories that they have issued has given us the advice that all employees with available leave entitlement should be allowed to use these leaves before they will go on a leave without pay. If you have to reduce work week, which is one of the alternative work arrangement under the new normal. And we have to redesign the workstation, the office, so that we will have social distancing, and we have to observe all the protocols like the use of mask and also the constant washing of hands and the use of disinfectant, including alcohol. So the new normal has replaced all standard operating procedures, but only the procedures have changed. The substantive law has remained constant. So the law on wages, especially minimum wage, still apply. In other words, you are not excused from paying minimum wage just because it's a pandemic. If you are a barangay micro enterprise and you are registered by DTI, you can avail of an exemption from minimum wage, and you will be guided by the regional office of the DOLE as to what amount you can afford. But that is a limited kind of exemption, that is not forever. So apart from the exemption, the question that are asked is this: is it possible that we can reduce our wage and salary provided we are not below minimum wage for the duration of the crisis? Well, as a general rule, we have Article 100 of the Labor Code that says that you cannot diminish or decrease salary. You cannot withdraw benefits. But there is a decision by the Supreme Court in the case of Insular Hotel Waterfront, where the decrease of salary was not imposed by management. It was in fact requested by the workers in exchange for not being subjected to retrenchment. So the story in Insular Hotel in Davao, it became bankrupt because it could not compete with the other hotels, considering that the rates of wages and salaries given to the workers were so high. There were benefits that were quite outrageous, and so that hotel became bankrupt, and Mr. William Gatchalian, the owner of the franchise of Waterfront, purchased the hotel. And upon taking possession of the establishment, he announced to the workers that he's going to pay separation pay to everybody. And he would hire new people, or they will hire from among those who were retrenched. But that is subject to his own discretion. So the workers have met among themselves and said that we are going to appeal to the owner, the new owner, to forego with retrenchment, and in lieu of that, we are willing to lower our salary and to give up some of the benefits. So the owner, Mr. Gatchalian, agreed to it, and it was signed by at least 75% of the workers agreed to it. But there were a few who questioned the validity of the agreement, alleging that it was null and void for being contrary to public policy, saying that wages can never be reduced. The case reached the Supreme Court, and the court decided in favor of the validity of the agreement, saying that it would have been invalid if it was imposed by management on the people, but it is the people who requested for it, and management only agreed to it, and there was an agreement accepted by the majority. And so those who would not accept, including the minority who question its validity, can just accept the separation pay and go. They are not compelled to work if they do not want to accept a lower salary. But the 75% who accepted, they continued to be employed. And also in the case of Philippine Airlines, in the case of the airline that became bankrupt, there was a case, Gerardo Rivera versus Secretary Espiritu, where Mr. Lucio Tan was able to offer to the employees 300,000 shares of stocks for each one of them. Shares of stocks worth 300,000 for free in exchange for no salary increase for a period of 10 years. No collective bargaining agreement renewal for 10 years. And again, that was questioned by the minority. And the Supreme Court upheld the validity of that agreement. Therefore, the rules now is that wages and salaries can be reduced, provided that the reduction is not imposed by management. It is agreed upon by the parties. Now, another principle that you have to remember is during the COVID crisis, while operation is intermittent and not continuous, the remittances to the social institution like the SSS, employees compensation, pag-ibig, and our favorite, today's favorite is PhilHealth, will continue and is not suspended. So do not think that because there is a crisis, you can suspend remittance to the SSS. Because even if the employee does not report for work every day, or some are working from home, the relationship still continues. The relationship still continues. And so he is still covered by social legislation. In the light of these realities, ladies and gentlemen, there is an urgent need to re-examine our business models, review and reorient our rules, and refocus our priorities. For instance, operation managers should redesign the work by observing government protocols. The arrangement of the furnitures, the arrangement of the machineries in the assembly line should be adjusted to observe the distance required by health authorities and the interagency task force. And HR, you mostly, many of you here listening today or participating are from HR. You have to take a look again at your company rules and regulations and make adjustment, for instance, on leave entitlement, on the matter of work from home arrangement, in deadlines for submission of reports, in regularization of provisionary employment. So many things that you have to consider, from hiring to retiring. Finance also must tighten their controls and exercise prudence in financial management. Cost-saving measures on supplies, materials, and other logistics should also be undertaken. There must be strict implementation of health protocols, enforcement of company, especially the gate, the entrances and the exit. The guard should be properly oriented as to the questions that should be asked. I will discuss what are these questions later on. So making decisions is not just a matter of law. Maraming nagtatanong sa akin, sir, there are many employees pwede namang mag-report dahil may transportation. Meron ngang company nag-provide pa ng transportation, but the employees do not want to report for work. Can we terminate their employment based on insubordination or gross and habitual neglect of duty? My answer to that is that as HR people, you are not just going to implement the law. You have to exercise compassion. You have to classify your employees. Those who have been very good, very faithful, very hardworking, but now are suffering from trauma and they cannot report for work, you have to be considerate with them. But those who are notoriously undesirable, very lazy, very reklamador, intrigero, ito ang dapat ninyong bigyan ng striktong pag-enforce. So, hindi ako naniniwala sa sinasabing equal treatment. You cannot treat equally yung mga mababait na empleyado at saka yung mga suwail. Yung mga suwail, mga rebelde, mga intrigero, mga libakero, yung mga nagpapakalat ng mga masasamang rumor, nagpo-post sa Facebook ng mga derogatory remarks. Ito yung mga dapat higpitan ninyo sa pag-enforce ng policy. Pero yung mga dati ng magaling at mahusay at hardworking, loyal, dapat bigyan niyo ng konting kaluwagan yan at bigyan niyo ng behavioral approach. You have to talk to them heart to heart. What is bugging them? What is really preventing them from reporting despite the availability of transportation? So, I recommend a template for decision making in times of difficulties like this. Number 1, maximize opportunity to work and to continue operation, but never compromise safety and health of your people. Kailangan mag-operate tayo dahil kung wala tayong operation, wala tayong revenue. Kung wala tayong revenue, wala tayong pangsahod, wala tayong pang-remit sa SSS, wala tayong pangbayad ng tax. So, the Philippines now is suffering from recession because of consecutive 2 quarters. First quarter of the year and second quarter, zero economic growth. Therefore, officially under the definition of NEDA, the Philippines is now under recession. Number 2, isolate the infected employees and must have effective detection mechanism, safeguards the rest of the people but respect human dignity. Yung mga sa gate, mga gwardiya must be armed with the specific gadget to determine temperature of employees, and they must ask 3 questions. One question is this: do you have any symptom of like coughing, muscle pain, and sore throat, or some running nose? Because these are indicators. Number 2, is there any member of your family who has been tested positive for the last 14 days? And number 3, have you had contact with an OFW returning to the Philippines in the last 14 days? Or any people coming from other countries in the last 14 days? So these 3 questions should be asked by the guard, or there should be a small slip of paper. They should answer this, and for any positive answer, it should be referred to the clinic for evaluation by the nurse or the physician. So we must know how to balance between business and people. And HR should be very good in communicating, explaining, persuading, notifying, informing, coordinating. HR is the link that will connect all the units in the company. At least if there are employees who are working from home, at least once a week you have to talk to this employee, and nobody will do this except HR. You know, the more ideal is for the direct superior to do this, but if they are busy, HR should just mangumusta, how are you? Do you have any problem? How can we help you? No? Do you have any concern? Do you want to clarify certain matters? Do not wait for the employees to go to you to ask questions. You have to make the employee feel that they are being cared for at the most trying times that we are facing today. Number 5, we cannot treat people equally. This is what I told you earlier. Because they are not equal. So I always say, have an ABC profile. Sa lahat ninyong mga empleyado, kung meron kayong 100 empleyado, ilan ba ang A niyan? Mga maswerte kayo kung may 20 na A sa inyong 100 people. At least 20% of your people are angels. They are your allies. They are reliable people, trustworthy, hardworking. They are self-motivated. They are passionate at work. They have no hidden agenda. These are your angels. You have to take care of them. Yun ang mga C. Yun ang mga kontrapelo. Yan ang mga counterproductive people. Lagi na lang nagchichismis, laging nagpapakalat ng masamang balita, laging naninira. Ito yung mga tao na ilagay natin sa pre-departure area. Kasi kung mag-retrenchment, ito yung maunang mawawala sa mundo. Yung mga B, ito yung mga bipolar. Yung mga pwede silang pumunta sa A, pwede silang pumunta sa C, depende kung sino ang maghila sa kanila. So as HR, dapat ang programa mo is to make more A. So kung 100 yan, 20 lang ang iyong A, tapos 20 ang C, di yung 60, mga B yun, karamihan. Walang paninindigan yan. Depende yan sa mag-influence sa kanya. Ang pangalawa naman is separate the high character. Ito, meron akong ginawang, may ginawa akong matrix. Ito, matrix ko ito, JBJ's matrix. Yung number one dyan, yung competence is low but character is high. Yung mga bagong hire, mga empleyado na masisipag pero hindi marunong. Turuan mo yan, yung incompetent goodness, magiging competent goodness yan, magiging high-high. Pero ang mga empleyadong high-high, ito yung mga angels mo. Pag yan ay hindi na-recognize at hindi nabigyan ng appreciation ng management or nainis sa kanyang superior, ay maaari yan na magiging high-low, magiging mataas ang competence, mababa yung karakter. Hanggang magiging low-low yan, magiging mababang competence, mababang karakter. So, this is really a matrix that shows the metamorphosis of an employee. If in the company, you start with high character but low competence. And then if you are not being nurtured by the management, you deteriorate. So, in times of crisis, you must know who are the people you can rely on. No? Who are your high people? Yan ang mga dapat nyong gawin na marunong kayo. At saka meron pa rin kayong isang tinatawag kong profile on health. You should also have a profile on health. Yung first classification, perfectly healthy employees, age 18 to 59. Then the seniors, separate the seniors, separate the pregnant women, the PWDs. And then yung may pre-existing ailments like may diabetes, merong high blood, may maintenance. So, itong may mga history of medical issues. So, in deciding who shall be allowed to work from home, you should give priority to the seniors, the BWD, those with pre-existing ailments. Although yung trabaho nila ay hindi dapat work from home kasi ang trabaho nila, for instance, imbalsamador sila, paano sila mag-work from home? Kailangan magkaroon sila ng flexibility. They will accept new assignments of new jobs. They have to widen their horizon, do not limit themselves on their own position. Times of crisis calls for flexibility and the ability to glide over the surging tides of changes. Employee profiling is not illegal. When you classify people, you do not commit any violation of the law. You do not violate ethics. It gives management a good input for decision making. Kasi pag sinabi ng management, HR, we have 1,000 employees, I need only to retain 300. What are the criteria for you to select the 300? So, you must have criteria based on your profiles. Next, the company needs to survive. The employees need to earn. And so we should find ways to operate. In our operation, we can innovate, like classify the work into work on-site, work from home. Sa work from home, you can also sub-classify work from home based on time or work from home based on output. Kahit ngayon, ikaw, meron kang sahod sa opisina based on hours of work, kahit walang performance, pero pagka nagtrabaho ka sa bahay, maaaring baguhin yung basis of your wage or salary. Na instead of time, which is very difficult to monitor, you will be paid according to agreed predetermined output based on specific volume and specific quality. For instance, you are an HR staff, you are working from home, you update all the 201 files. In one day, you have to finish 35 201 files based on the template that your boss will give you. Update the status of employment, update the number of beneficiaries, update the record on increases in salary, update the records on disciplinary actions, and it should be properly arranged. And all documents must have 3P, Pirma, Petsa, Pahina. No document is accepted as valid without any signature, without any date, and without any paging if it is composed of multiple pages. So, we cannot abandon our people in times of need. We cannot just say immediately retrenchment tayo or immediately mag-lay off tayo, no work, no pay. You have to find ways and means because it's very difficult to lose one's livelihood at this time. Very difficult. So many people are suffering. So you have to classify your business. If your business is in food, in medical services, medical supplies, power or oil, then you are a very vital industry. And the government protocols will be quite lenient to allow your people to work, even if you will have an ECQ, because the nature of your operation is vital to the survival of the nation. Now, having classified the nature of your industry, you have also to classify the work within that industry. Which work must be done inside the company premises, and which work can be done outside. You HR people must be very alert. Do not wait for instruction from your superior. You anticipate. You anticipate. Classify your products, which products are very urgent. Of course, this is not HR concern, but HR can suggest. If there are products that are not very urgent to produce, no? As of today, there are many companies manufacturing masks and alcohol. It is one line of business that has prospered during the crisis. You see, even crisis gives way to prosperity to certain people. Hospital business is boom, including funeral services and crematorium. Then you classify your employees according to their skills, health, and their willingness to work. Even if they are healthy, if they have the skills, but others are unwilling to do the work, this should be reflected in their performance appraisal. But before you do that, you have to examine the behavioral explanation. Why are people behaving like this? You know, I have been working in San Miguel Corporation for 12 years, dealing with unions, negotiating CBAs, solving labor problems, appearing before the NLRC, preparing documents for the Supreme Court, 12 years. And then I went to Pepsi Cola. For 5 years, I was vice president for 3 portfolio: HR, legal, and corporate affairs. I replaced 3 vice presidents. So there were 3 positions vacant, and I was in charge of the 3 of them. And I was multi-skilling. But there were 17 HR manager reporting to me. We have plants all over the Philippines. We have sales units, we have bottling units, and we have logistics. So what I am sharing with you is not just a product of academic research. This is a product of my experience, not only in the private sector but in government as a decision-making authority, from labor arbiter in 1978, labor attaché to 3 countries, and under Secretary of Labor. So what I am advising you is a product of experience. We need to follow all protocols required by government. We cannot quarrel with government. We cannot oppose the government policy. And we have to remember that this crisis we are facing is not just a government problem. This is a national calamity. This is a national problem. We must all cooperate. So, as I have said, protocol means gate entrance must be very effective. Security guards should be given proper orientation and training. They must be courteous, they must be clean, and they must be respectful of the employees. They must not behave like military officials. So the questions I ask you, you memorize this. First question, have you experienced any symptom for the last 14 days? The next one is, do you have any member of your household that has been tested positive? And the third one is, have you had any contact with a returning OFW or any visitor from other countries, or members of your family returning from a foreign trip in the last 14 days? And your clinics are required by law under Book 4 of the Labor Code and under Department Order 198. So your nurse and your physician must be alert and must be able to give leadership in the enforcement of health and safety measures. Social distancing based on a workplace redesign. The use of masks and constant washing of hands and alcohol. By the way, under Department Order 198, it is the obligation of the employer to give adequate and safe water for drinking for all the employees. They are not supposed to buy their mineral water. The employer must provide adequate and clean water in the work premises for the drinking needs of all the employees. So information and communication is important. If you have no information unit because you are not a big company, this function is always assigned to HR as part of the job description and such other matters as may be assigned to you from time to time. This is part of you. You are the link between the top management and the frontline management. There are middle managers, but they are not very keen on communication. Be sure that the direction given by the top will be implemented down below, and HRs will be able to answer these questions even if they are not operations people. They know the protocols, they know the procedures, they know the standards, and they are able to clarify any questions. So top management the board of directors must have a meeting every month and must give the middle management and the HR people clear direction from the top, because the HR cannot make this decision. HR can recommend, but the overall direction for the business will come from the top, and HR will translate this into understandable terms for the people to understand. First line supervisors should be ready to answer questions guided by the HR. HR should initiate reaching out to people, to talk to them. There are many employees who are now suffering from depression. So HR must have a program how to assist employees who are suffering from depression. And you must have a hotline where employees can call, can email, can send messages through Viber, through text, and any other means. And you should have the courtesy to reply, to answer. Ako nga, mga umaattend ng aking mga seminar, kahit isang linggo na nakaraan, mag-text pa rin sa akin para magtanong. Sinasagot ko naman. Sinasagot ko as fast as I could. Alam ko na mahirap magdesisyon if you do not have knowledge about labor law. Marami kasi mga HR, kulang silang kaalaman sa labor law. Meron namang mga labor lawyer na wala namang alam sa HR. So ang unique sa aking experience is that I have more than 20 years experience in labor law. I have more than 25 years experience in HR. So combine mo yung 45 years. Then I have been teaching in the College of Law for more than 40 years. So whatever I say with authority, because it is based on the provision of law. It has been tested by empirical data, and it is not suntok sa buwan. It is down to earth, practicable, easy to understand and implement. So we will now go to parameters and processes of management and HR decision making and protocols for policy modification. When you make a decision or you change your policy, you have to look at the law. Hindi pwedeng gumawa kayo ng policy na labag sa batas. At tingnan ninyo yung regulation ng DOLE, ng Department of Health, Interagency Task Force, and you take a look at the government advisories. May DOLE advisory, merong DOH advisory. Minsan nahirapan kayo kasi hindi kayo tiyaga magbasa. Kaya umattend kayo ng seminar. Dito, lilinawin natin. Because minsan, malilito kayo sa daming mga advisory mo. Parang tinatawag na information overload. No? So this is the template for decision making. Pag gumawa kayo ng policy at gumawa kayo ng program or procedure, ang una niyong tanungin, ito bang policy na ito, pwede ba ito talagang ma-implement? Technically, can this be done? Kasi pag policy lang na hindi naman ito practical, suntok sa buwan naman ito, very academic, walang empirical data to support this, huwag natin gawin ang policy na mahirap gawin. Ang pangalawa is this legal? So ang pangalawang tanong is this legal? Kumbaga sa Rotary, merong 4-way test, di ba? Alam ko, some of you are Rotarians. Ang number 1 na tanong doon, is it the truth? Pangalawa, is it fair to all concerned? Pangatlo, is it beneficial? Pang-apat, will it promote goodwill and good friendship? Ganon. Dito naman, ang unang tanong natin is it feasible? Can it be done? Pangalawa, is it legal? Number 3, can we afford it? Financial soundness. Legal nga yan, hindi man natin ma-afford. No? At saka yung cost-benefit analysis. Baka yung what do we intend to achieve out of this policy? What result do we expect? Is the result substantially higher than the cost? Because if the cost is higher than the result, then what we are hurting ourselves. And lastly, and this is very important to me, is it fair to our employees? Is it equitable and just? Hindi lang yung iniisip natin yung management, isipin din natin yung mga tao. Kasi HR tayo eh. So, the procedure is for the board and the top management to have a virtual meeting. And then once there is a decision made, you HR, if you have a union, you meet with the union. Or if there is a labor management committee, and if there's a need to have a town hall virtual meeting, some companies are the higher level of knowledge workers under their employee. Everybody has a laptop, they have Wi-Fi connection, we can connect with our people through the digital platform, and we consult them, we ask them, we engage them, and then we gather the data before we make decision. So the owners, the board has a meeting, the top management can amend the policy, the HR make changes on the code of employee discipline. You take a look on the provisions about insubordination, about liquidation of cash advances, about gross and habitual neglect of duty. Kahit tayo nasa MECQ, kahit tayo nasa crisis, tuloy pa rin ang performance appraisal system. Tuloy pa rin ang pag-monitor sa performance ng ating mga empleyado. Pagdating ng panahon, kung wala man tayong salary adjustment, at least kung magdidesisyon tayo kung sino ang ma-retrench, meron tayong evaluation on the level of the value of every person to the organization. And it is very crucial that the first line managers and supervisors should be always on board. They should not be put on a blind side as to what is happening. We have to have an organization with a very fluid flow of communication without, of course, endangering the security of some very confidential documents or information. And weekly, there must be a consultation, even by virtual, no, with the people, informing them. So HR should review the company policy from from hiring to retiring. Of course, today, because of difficulties, most companies have freeze hiring. And the probationary employees, maraming nagtanong sa akin, sir, nag-hire kami December, January, hindi namin na-predict yung difficulty we are now in. Paano ngayon itong mga probationary? Pwede ba natin itong hindi irregular? Well, isipin lang ninyo, kahit nga ang mga regular na, pwede pa rin mawala sa trabaho yung pang probationary. Kahit ba sila qualified, competent, magaling ang karakter, pero inabot tayo ng ganitong crisis. So we can still use Article 298, which is separation due to retrenchment, redundancy, and even probationary employees should be allowed to go first before we include the regular, because there is preference in the status of the regular employees. But in all our decisions, take note, we have to consult top management, we have to consult middle management, we have to consult other units. Kaya minsan ang mga HR napapagalitan dahil tera ng tera na walang consultation. Yan ang sinasabi ko, you do not own the company. You do not own the company, you cannot make immediately a decision na hindi ka magtimbre. Titimbrihan mo yung mga ka-level mo. Ang una mong timbrihan sa itaas, mangingi ka ng approval. Pag may approval ka na, i-meet mo yung peer mo, ka-level mo, bago ka mag-promulgate ng decision mo para may suporta ka. Kasi kag gumawa ka ng desisyon na wala kang suporta, pati yung mga ka-level mo ang mag-aatake. Aatakihin nila yung iyong desisyon. So you will be defending the decision alone. That is a difficult situation. So ito, always obtain the support and approval of top management. Yan ang pinaka crucially important. Do not make a move without approval from management. Sabihin mo doon sa boss mo, sir, kung sinuspend ko ba ito si Juan de la Cruz ng 10 days, susuportahan mo ba ako? Bakit mo siya suspended? O ito yung dokumento, ito yung resulta ng investigation, ito yung mga testimony ng mga witnesses. So, kailangan na gumawa tayo ng action kasi mawalan ng credibility ang management kung meron tayong rules na hindi natin kayang i-enforce. So, para bang you are getting the support of people at the top at saka level mo, para pag merong kumontra sa decision mo, meron kang kakampi. HR should listen to the voice of operation, manufacturing, sales, and logistics. Kahit gaano mo katalino na HR, gaano mo ka-articulate. Alam ba yung meaning ng articulate? Maarte na, makulit pa. So, kahit ba gaano kayo kagaling sa HR, kung lahat ng ibang unit kukontrahin kayo, hindi rin kayo magsasucceed eh. So, importante ang relationship in an organization. Even if you are right, sabi mo, tama naman ako eh, tama ka nga, pero wala kang suporta. You are technically correct, but you do not have political support. So, you experience failure. Maraming tao na hindi nagtatagumpay sa mundo, sobrang taas ng IQ, mababa sa EQ. Wala silang competence sa pag-build ng relationship. Kaya, matatanggal ka rin. Or you will be unhappy and you will leave the organization. So, consultation with other units, consult with the unions, with the employees. Isang pamilya tayo eh. But consultation does not mean that we will follow all what they want to say. You have to tell them, I want to listen to you, but at the end of the day, I will make a decision. Gusto ko lang marinig ang inyong panig. But at the end of the day, I will make a decision, that the suggestion. Pero I will try my best to listen to you. Baka naman makonvince mo ako. Ganon yun. So in making a change in your policy, you use this model ni JBJ, REFGA-PIMA. Ano yan? Research. Bago ka gumawa ng policy, mag-research ka, i-evaluate mo yung situation, then you formulate the policy, you get the approval from above, then you promulgate. Pag promulgate, ibig sabihin, memo signed by, not you, you sign, but it will be approved by the president, the general manager. Then, the line manager will implement it. The supervisor will enforce it. And you, the HR, will monitor, and then you gather data and assess whether there's a need to change. So that is just a process. Research, evaluate, formulate, get approval. Promulgate, implement, monitor, assess, and then amend if there's a necessity. We go now to part 3. Reformulate to align with the imperatives of the new normal. You redesign the business model. Alam mo ngayon, ito nangyayari sa mga restaurant. Ito, meron akong cliente, yung Shakey's. Cliente ko yan. Tapos, dati, nung wala pang crisis, 80% of the business of Shakey is dine-in. Ibig sabihin, kakain sila inside the restaurant. 20% lang yung delivery. Alam mo ngayon, 80% na ang delivery, 20% ang dine-in. Lalo na pagka ECQ talaga. So nagbago ang business model. You re-engineer and design the operation, then ikaw HR, sumabay ka ngayon kasi nagbabago ang tugtog, babaguhin mo rin ang sayaw mo and make adjustment in the standards sa finance, sa mga control natin, sa cash advance, liquidation. There should be some adjustment in the control. There should be adjustment in all aspect of the business. And it is the HR that will lead the change, the process of change. Parang kwanto eh, tinatawag na management of change. No? Management of change ito. And who is the most competent person to manage the change? Yan, HR. HR ang mag-lead ng change. So, we review and study all the laws, regulations, advisories, company policies, and even the local tradition. Kasi pagka nasa Mindanao ka, you have to take note of the Muslim culture. You have to be respectful of the Islam culture. Kailangan na marunong kang mag-sensitive ka sa mga unique idiosyncrasies. And you have to be very sensitive also about PWD, about LGBT, about gender sensitivity. Yan mga bagay na isa sa alang-alang mo, marami kang isipin. So, again, as I have mentioned earlier, we look at our people based on degree of vulnerabilities. The highly vulnerable sectors in our company are the seniors, those that are symptomatic, the PWDs, pregnant, and those with history of medical issues. The moderately vulnerable are above 45 but below 60, and at least from 18 to 45. Yan ang pagka-least vulnerable. Yan ang pinaka-healthy. Now, according to HR records naman, yung classification nyo ng ABC profile, tingnan ninyo yung 215. Highly reliable and competent, hardworking people. Ito yung mga A ninyo angels. Highly reliable, competent, hardworking, no previous derogatory record. Yan ang meaning ng NPDR. No previous derogatory record. And excellent performing. Performance is very high. Yan ang dapat yung alagaan mga tao. Yung mga B, they have doubtful effectiveness. Hindi pa malinaw ang kanilang loyalty to the company. Their performance is just erratic, unreliable people. But the most difficult are the letter C, perennial complainer, rumor mongerer, lazy, with repeated records of violations. Yan ang tawag yun, namumuro na. Sa mga Tagalog pa, namumuro na. So yan, according to health, according to age, according to skills, according to flexibility, according to reliability. So, based on that, you reclassify your work arrangement. Ano yung MRFW? Must report for work with social distancing. Ang MRFW, talagang magre-report yan sa opisina. Kasi yung kanilang operation is based on machineries or installations that are located. Parang embalsamador yan eh. You have to report for work. Hindi mo pwedeng iuwi yung bangkay. That is the most dramatic experience. Yung may report from home, or number 2, may report from home with defined output, volume, and quality standards. So, kayo, kung magpa-work from home kayo, magbigay kayo ng standards. Hindi yung work from home ka, bahala ka kung anong gawin mo sa bahay. You must have a deliverables. You must have a defined result and a timetable with volume, quality standards. That is the way how to manage. Yan namang work with reduced work week. Reduced work week Iba yung reduced work week sa compressed work week. Kasi ang reduced work week, maaaring 36 hours na lang siya magtrabaho instead ng 48 hours every week. Kasi 48 hours yan. 6 days times 8. 8 hours. So 48. Yan ang minimum na dapat trabahuin ng tao every week. 48. Nasa labor code yan. Ang example lang, ang exemption lang yan ay yung mga medical frontliners na they are allowed only 5 working days. And that is 40 instead of 48. But kailangan ang hospital nila may certain size ng number of hospital beds para mag-qualify sila dyan. Pero I'm not sure if most of the hospital are complying with that kasi as of today, because of the volume of infection, overpatig na ang mga frontliners natin. But going back to this, iba yung reduced work week sa compressed work week. Kasi ang compressed work week, 48 hours pa rin, pero ginawa mo na lang siyang 4 days instead of 6 days. So sa 4 na araw niyan, magtrabaho ka ng 12 hours from 6 to 6. Either in the office or at home. So a compressed work week can be work from home. Combination yan. Or it is i-blending, parang sa education ngayon, blending. A part is report, Monday you report again on Friday, but from Tuesday to Thursday you can work from home. That is a combination. As long as you can log in 48 hours for that week, wala kang overtime pay. But the moment maglampas na tayo sa 48, doon na magbayad ng overtime. So whether it is based on result or based on time, it depends upon the decision of management. By the way, I want to clarify, hindi ang empleyado magsasabi na, sir, mag-work from home ako. No, it's not for the employee. It's for the management to decide. Of course, management will listen to the employee and consider his physical condition. Bakit? PWD ka ba? Pregnant ka ba? Senior ka ba? May history ka ba of medical ailments? Ganon. So, we have to take a look at the factors of work, must report for work, itong must report from home with defined outputs, whether it is reduced work week or compressed work week, or it is work from home with a defined output. Yan, you have to, HR pa rin ang magbibigay ng mga standards niyan eh. So ito, leaves availment. You have to review your policy on leave. You have to distinguish between a leave that is provided by law. By law, service incentive leave, 5 araw lang yun. Pag meron kayong individual contracts or collective bargaining contract higher than 5 days, so you look at it and you review the policy on availment. No? Kung 5 yung magli-leave, 6 lang sila sa isang unit, 5 yung nag-apply, sino yung pagbibigyan mo? Anong criteria ang pagpili? Kaya nagkakaroon tayo ng mga irritation, mga issue of discrimination dahil wala tayong criteria eh. You have to clarify it in your policy. If there are many applicants and we can only allow a certain number of leaves at a given time, Sino ba, ano bang criteria mo? First in, yung first come, yung unang nag-apply, or kahit una ka mag-apply pero you are less qualified because the others are PWDs. So you have to put decision-making criteria. So there are leaves given by practice, by company policy, but the law only allows 5 days. 5 days lang. No. But some companies give it voluntarily. Another thing that you have to look at is policy on loans. Ito na, meron akong suggestion dito. Maraming mga empleyado loan ng loan at wala nang naiwan sa kanilang basic salary. So wala na silang gana magtrabaho. So sa San Miguel, when I was there, in 1986-87, we came up with a policy on take-home pay. Ang sabi, your take-home pay should not be less than 50% of your gross compensation. So kung ang gross compensation mo ay 30,000, bawasan ng iyong mga statutory remittances, SSS, PhilHealth, Pag-ibig, is yung iba, no? Meron ka pang utang sa kantin, marami ka bang ibang mga insurance, whatever. So basta mangutang ka ngayon, maglo-loan ka, do you have a portion na pwede ka pang mag-loan? Kasi kung naubos mo na yung 50% of your gross, sa San Miguel hindi ka na pwedeng mag-loan. You have to protect the take-home pay. Ganoon yun. Ngayon, kung meron pa silang way, meron silang chance na makaloan kasi wala naman silang malaking utang, you help them. Cooperate with them in their SSS loan, maybe Pag-ibig loan. Kasi mga Pilipino, mga loan rangers eh. Kung merong loan ng loan. Meron ng kooperatiba, merong utang sa kantin. Sobra ng loan, alam mo, yan ang problema sa Pilipino eh. Mahilig tayo mag-utang eh. Kaya ang Pilipino, hindi yan isang kahig, isang tuka. Ang Pilipino, bago kinahig, tinuka na. So, pagdating ng panahon, wala nang gana magtrabaho. Kasi magkita doon sa take-home pay niya, wala na siyang madadala sa kanyang pamilya. Inutang na niya. So, as of today, ang advice ko sa inyo, huwag na tayo masyadong umasa sa gobyerno. Kasi ngayon gobyerno natin, trilyones na yung utang. So, kahit ba maganda yung credit rating ng Philippines, kasi magaling yung ating mga economic team, magaling yung Central Bank Governor, magaling yung Secretary of Finance. So, among the ASEAN countries, hinahangaan pa rin ang Pilipinas na we are financially sound. Pero sa dami nating utang, masisira yan. Kahit gaano ka, ikaw, tao ka, kahit gaano mo kagaling, pag sobra ang maraming utang mo, apektado yung personalidad mo. Law policies on health, safety, and welfare. Itong Department Order 198. Ngayon, tumigil muna ang duli sa inspection, but pagka next week na hindi na ma-extend itong MECQ, pwede na bumalik ang duli po inspection eh. So yung mga protocol sa Department Order 198, sobrang lalaki na mga fine dyan, 20,000, 25,000. Oh. Kaya magbibigay kayo ng mask pagkatapos padilidakan nyo sa sahod. Hindi pwede yan. Pati yung tubig, pabibili. Yung mga personal protective equipment that is charged to the employer, not to the employee. So mag-download kayo lahat ng advisory ng DOLE para basahin ninyo lahat yun kasi hindi natin yan ma-memorize at wala tayong time dito. Tingnan nyo, ito lang, sinumarize ko. Complete personal protective equipment at no cost to the employee. At no cost to the employee. Tandaan nyo yan. Safe and adequate drinking water. Social distancing. Wearing of mask. Entrance and exit protocols. Part 1 of the second module that we are discussing today. And we will start with some very fundamental principles. So again, the times have changed, but there are matters that remain constant. For instance, the value of fairness and justice in dealing with our employees, the value of honesty and good faith on the part of our employees, hard work and dedication, and so on and so forth. So, we will now discuss the factors when we amend our company policy. We have to reach a balance between respect for management prerogatives on the one hand and respect for the rights of the employees on the other hand. And so when we talk of respect for the rights of the workers and also commitment to the rule of law, these are just the heading. Rights of workers include the right to equality in employment. In other words, against discrimination. In times of crisis like today, when we discriminate on the basis of gender, on the basis of religion, on the basis of race, those are the labor relations policies that are not allowed by law. RUGAR, race, unions, gender, age, and religion. But you can discriminate on basis of competence, on the basis of character, performance. You can make discrimination on the basis of performance because that is not prohibited by law. So when you give a higher salary increase to a high-performing employee and you do not give an increase to others who are not performing, you are committing discrimination, but that is not the discrimination that is prohibited by law. Another right of the worker is the right to a living wage, and that is minimum wage. Although the unions would say that in the Philippines, our minimum wage is below the level of the living wage, because the living wage is a concept that says that the income of the worker must be commensurate with the cost of living. That is why our minimum wage law is regionalized based on the premise that every region has a different level of cost of living. So, if you give below the minimum, you violate the minimum wage law, there is a criminal liability under Republic Act 8188. And that law imposes a penalty of 2 years imprisonment minimum to 4 years imprisonment maximum, or a fine of 25,000 minimum and 100,000 maximum, or both. Itong problema, if the judge would exercise the discretion to impose both the fine and the imprisonment. Security of tenure is a right of the employee for the regular employees against illegal dismissal, constructive dismissal, illegal demotion, illegal transfer, and there are nuances that I will discuss later on. Unions, the right to form unions, the right to bargain, and the right to strike, which is the right to participate in policy, and the right to peaceful concerted action, including the right to strike in accordance with law. So let us look at the rights of the workers one by one. The workers have the right to security of tenure, but such a right can be lost if the employer exercises the prerogative to discipline based on just cause and after due process. So, security of tenure does not mean forever in your job if you are guilty of an offense that is classified under Article 297 as a just cause, or the company suffers from financial difficulty that calls for the application of Article 298 on authorized causes, namely retrenchment, redundancy, labor-saving device, and closure. The employee also has the right to dignity. He cannot be insulted, he cannot be subjected to inhuman treatment, because the Constitution assures humane conditions of work. And humane conditions of work is not limited only to the physical condition, the pollution, the condition that is healthy and safe, but also the psychosocial environment, the manner by which employees are being treated. The workers have the right to living wage, that is minimum wage, the right to form union and bargain collectively. They have the right to participate in policy and decision making through the LMC. That's why HR, if you do not have a union, there must be a mechanism by which the management will regularly meet with the people through the HR department and listen to their grievances, listen to their suggestions, listen to the issues that are affecting them, whether it is about salary, wages, about benefits, about the atmosphere in the workplace. These are valid concerns, and this management should not take it against the employees if there are these are raised. Now, earlier I have told you that it is illegal to discriminate based on sex, race, and creed. Yung age should be put upstairs now because of the law about prohibiting discrimination based on age. So if there's a job applicant in your company whose age is 50 or 60, you cannot refuse to give him or her an application form mainly or principally because of age. You have to give him an equal opportunity to compete for a job. And if he fails because he does not have the competence, for instance, then he failed not because of his age or her age. Labor standards, we have discuss hours of work, overtime pay, rest day, holiday pay, and rights, other rights, no? Like rights for women, rights like the rights of violence against women leave, the Magna Carta of Labor leave for women, for OB-GYN, hysterectomy, ovarectomy, and mastectomy. These are rights arising from labor standards. But on the other hand, management has prerogative. This is very important. Management has the prerogative to change the table of organization. And management has the power to assign job level to every position, whether this position is more important than the others, which is higher in job level. A compensation specialist or an HR coordinator. HR coordinator is a generalist. Compensation specialist is a specialist or labor relations specialist. Well, you have to provide a job content, evaluate the job content, and assign a job level. That is the prerogative of management. The employee can make suggestions or voice out his opinion, but the final say and the prerogative lies on management. Management has the right to choose people, select, give examination, and hire a chosen one based on standards, based on qualification standards that are specified by management. The qualification standards should not be discriminatory on the basis of gender, religion, age, or race. The prerogative to determine what are regular positions and what are casual positions. Well, these are very controversial now because of the law on contractualization. Article 106 of the Labor Code has been the subject of many political campaign propaganda, many, including the President, promising that once he assumes office, he would abolish contractualization. But as you are aware, contractualization is still around. What has been abolished was the practice of 555, that every 5 months a new appointment is given to an employee for the same job or the same compensation, just to show that he has not reached a 6-month period, which is usually the probationary employment duration prior to regularization of status. But you have to be clarified that the word regular and casual refers to a position. It does not refer to a person. So if you are the owner of a company and you have an articles of incorporation, you form a table of organization and you put boxes there with position. And you have the right to determine that this job is regular. And it is regular because it is found in the table of organization. Other jobs that are not put in the table of organizations are either casual because it is not needed on a continuing basis, or it is contractual, it is needed but it can be outsourced. It can be outsourced because it is not directly related to the principal business of an employer. Example, in the business of Pepsi-Cola bottling company, the task of washing the bottles Itong mga botelya na galing sa mga tindahan, pagbalik niyan sa planta, marurumi dahil nilalagyan ng mga upos ng sigarilyo, nilalagyan ng kung ano-ano. So, pagbalik sa planta niyan, bago yan i-bottling uli, huhugasan yan. So, the task of washing the bottle is considered contractable or outsourceable. It can be outsourced because the business of Pepsi Cola does not relate to washing a bottle. It does not directly relate to the principal business of manufacturing and sale of soft drink products. It is incidental, and therefore it can be outsourced. Even if the work is done inside the company premises of Pepsi Cola, it does not make the job regular. So, yan ang mangyayari. That's why it's very important that kayong mga nakikinig sa akin ngayon, mag-ingat kayo sa dismissal. Huwag yung bukang bibig na kaagad na hindi lang nag-report kasi COVID, pagkatapos tatanggalin kaagad natin. Di natin alamin ano bang problema. Kausapin natin ang tao. Pero pag C yan, ABC, pwede mo na istriktuhin yan. Pero pag A, ayusin nyo yan. Baka imbes na tanggalin ninyo without separation pay, idaan na lang dito sa retrenchment, redundancy. Total, magbawas tayo ng tao, ikaw may kasalanan ka sana, dapat ka namin tanggalin, wala kang separation pay. Kahit 20 years in service ka pa, pag just cause ang reason pagtanggal sa iyo, walang matatanggap. Pero dahil naawa kami sa iyo at yung pinahalagaan namin yung 20 years in service mo, bayaran ka namin separation pay at yan ay based on redundancy, 1 month for every year of service. Pag retrenchment, dahil nga nalugi, pag retrenchment, 1/2 month for every year of service lang. Yun ang prerogative ng management. Ito ang prerogative to outsource. Pag halimbawa, pareho ng example ko, bottle washing, hindi ka mag-hire ng regular employee, wala sa table of organization na regular na bottle washer eh. So it is a contractable job, janitorial, messengerial, security, maintenance, delivery, tracking. Hindi yan mga core function that is traditionally allowed to be outsourced. Pero siguruhin nyo na ang agency na kinuha ninyo ay agency na merong substantial capital at lisensyado. Dapat yung mga membro ng PALSCON, Philippine Association of Legitimate Service Contractors, kasi siguro yan na lisensyado talaga yan at mga professional yan. Pero kumuha kayo ng mga fly-by-night na mga ragtag operation na walang lisensya, at the end of the day, ang desisyon ng labor arbiter niyan o regional director, yung empleyado ng agency or kunwari na agency ay magiging regular employee mo yon. Yan ang problema dyan. So, you have to be very careful. No? Yan. Prerogative to sell the company. Kung halimbawa, ang may-ari, sasabihin natin, na inis na talaga may-ari, na wala na ng pag-asa, ipagbili na lang ang company. The question is the buyer of the company duty-bound to absorb all the employees? As I have told you, in the case of Insular Hotel, ang binili ng kumpanya, ang mga asset, building, hindi niya binili yung stocks, shares of stocks ng company. So, ang binili lang niya, ang tawag niyan asset only. I buy the building, I buy the facilities, I buy the land, but I do not buy the employee. I do not buy. I'm not a stockholder of the corporation that closed. So, your employer should pay you your separation pay, and I operate as a new corporation. Pero, merong another way of buying or selling. Yung ginawa ng San Miguel sa Latondinia. Latondinia Company was owned by Don Carlos Palanca Sr. And San Miguel was owned by Don Andres Soriano Sr. Magkaibigan yung dalawa eh. Pareho mga Kastila eh. Don Carlos Palanca, Don Andres Soriano, Don Manolo Alizalde. Ay, mga Don niya nung araw, ang mayaman, puro Kastila. Ngayon, mga Chinese na, mayaman. So, ngayon, pinagbili ni Don Carlos Palanca doon kay Don Andres Soriano, ang binili ni Don Andres Soriano, hindi lang yung building, binili ang shares of stock. So, ang 95% of all the shares of Latondinia were purchased by San Miguel. Nag-iwan lang ng 5% ang mga Palanca para for sentimental reason. Kasi sila naman ang founder ng Latondinia eh. Hinibra San Miguel. Hinibra San Miguel, ang pangalan talaga ng Latondinia kasi ang word na Latondinia is a woman from Tondo. Tondo, Tondinia. O kaya Latondinia. Hindi yun naintindihan din. Ang San Miguel, kaya naman pinangalan ng San Miguel yan because doon naman yan malapit sa Malacanang, San Miguel District. La Fabrica de Cerveza de San Miguel. Kaya San Miguel at Latondinia. So ang binili ni Don Andres Soriano from Don Carlos Palanca is ang buong shares of stock. So pati mga tao absorb lahat. Pati yung bayaran ng retirement, lahat, utang, inassume. Ganun ang lock, stock, and barrel. Pero yung sa Insular Hotel, asset only lang yun. Binili ang asset only. O, yan ang ibig sabihin dyan. No? O, dito tayo sa discipline. Kasi dito talaga magka-problema eh. Kung ako sa inyo, itong Article 282 na ngayon 297, hindi na ito 296 eh, 297 na. Memoryahin ninyo yan, 6 lang yan eh, hindi yan 5 eh, kasi serious misconduct, ito ha, ito. Serious misconduct, isa yan. Pangalawa, insubordination. Pangatlo, ganod. Ano ba yung ganod? Gross and habitual neglect of duty. Tapos fraud. Tapos meron pang lutak yan. Ano yung lutak? Loss of trust and confidence. Tapos commission of a crime. Tapos yung mga union-related, pagka halimbawa illegal strike, pwede matanggal ang empleyado. And other analogous cases. Yun ang ground dyan. So, how do you do that? Ito ngayon ang sasabihin ko sa inyo. Please listen to this. Ang ginagawa ninyo, most of you, I noticed to explain. Ngayon, i-challenge ko kayo. Where can you find in the labor code that the term notice to explain? Wala. Yung ginagawa nyo, wala yan sa labor code, yung notice to explain. Ang nasa labor code is written notice charging the employee in writing of a specific offense. That is what is provided in the law, Article 277, paragraph B plus 15 equals 282, paragraph B. No? Kasi ang labor code ngayon, nadagdagan ng articles eh. So yung 282 dati, naging 297 kasi dinagdagan ng 15 articles. So ngayon, hanapin ninyo yung ginagawa nyo, wala yan sa labor code. Ang ginagawa ng karamihan ng mga HR at mga management na nagsasabi, notice to explain, you are hereby ordered to explain. Mali yun eh. Dapat notice of charge. Sabihin nyo, you are hereby charged based on the report of the security guard you are charged with pilferage of company property consisting of, lagay nyo, describe property, value, no? Tapos yung 7W. Ano yung 7W? When did it happen? Where did it happen? How did it happen? May W din sa huli. How? Number 4, how much is the value of the thing stolen? Number 5, why was the employee apprehended? No? Why? Because he brought it out, the company. Then yung sinasabing balik ko una, 7W, what muna, what? Ang answer dyan, pilferage of company property. 2, who? Juan de la Cruz. 3, when did it happen? At 7:30 in the morning, August 10 to 2020. Where did it happen? Gate number 7 facing Juan Luna Avenue, City of Quezon City. No? Number 5, how did it happen? He put it in his backpack and it was discovered by the security guard. How much? Number 6, is the value is more or less 75,000 pesos. Then number 7, witness. Who are the witness? The name of the security guard. Lagay mo yan sa charge. You are charged of pilferage of company property, which is analogous to fraud under Article 297 of the Labor Code in relation to our Code of Employee Discipline, particularly page 7, paragraph letter D, stealing of company property, punishable by termination of employment, even for the first offense. Ilagay mo yan. So, ilagay mo na yung pangalawa, yung sinabi mong explain. In this connection, you are ordered to explain. Ang problema sa inyo kasi notice to explain kayo pero wala kayong charge. Ito, nag-charge ka muna, then magpapa-explain ka. That is the second paragraph. The third paragraph, after your explanation, you will be subjected to administrative investigation to be scheduled in the following days. 1, 2, 3. Damihan mo. Kasi pag hindi siya available sa number 1, meron pang number 2. Naku, maniwala kayo sa akin. I have investigated more than 500 employees. San Miguel, Pepsi Cola, Petron pa. I was HR director of Petron in 1981 when many of you were not yet born in this world. No? So after you charge, you give him opportunity. Ano yung opportunity? Submit siya in writing. Tapos pangalawa, question and answer, administrative. Ang panghuli niyan, decision of management in writing to terminate the employment. Ganoon yun. Meron akong libro, more than 1,000 pages, how to terminate employment legally. Yan, dalawa kaming author. Yung anak ko, si Attorney John Paul Jimenez, at kaming dalawa author niyan. Lahat ng kaso, lahat ng kasalanan ng tao nasa libro na yan. Nasa Central Bookstore yan. Pwede ninyong i-online yan. Online. How to terminate employment legally and with honor and dignity. With honor and dignity. Meron din kasama niyan. How to file and handle cases of illegal dismissal. Kung ikaw naman yung tinanggal, yung pula ang gamitin mo. Kung ikaw yung manananggal, yung blue ang gamitin mo. So, hagip yung dalawa eh. Management, yung blue. Yung employee, yung tinanggal, meron din siyang sandata. Oh, di ba? Meron pang discipline dito. So, Itong mga kasalanan na ito, 5, 6, serious misconduct. Example yan, fighting inside company premises. Drugs, alcohol, weapon, social media. Social media, yung mga nagpo-post ng mga masasamang salita dyan sa Facebook. Sinisiraan yung HR manager kahit hindi ba pinangalanan pero dinescribe. Ayan, masama yan. Insubordination. Ayaw magpalipat, ayaw tumanggap ng assignment, ayaw mag-report for work, ayaw mag-submit ng report, ayaw magsumunod sa company manual, ayaw magpa-subject to gate protocol on safety and security and also health. Number 3, ganod. Yan, ganod. Ano yung ganod? Gross and habitual neglect of duty. Chronic absenteeism, habitual tardiness, failure to achieve prescribed quota in sales, repeated failure, 3 beses, in-evaluate, hindi makakuha ng quota. Fraud, stealing, lutak, loss of trust and confidence for managerial employees and for those highly confidential positions. Crime against the person of the employer. If you challenge your supervisor to a fight or you inflict injury on your manager or utter derogatory remark, some very scandalous words, very abrasive, libelous, very antagonistic, insulting, and vulgar words against your superior. Then analogous cases like sexual harassment. Meron pala akong hindi nabanggit sa serious misconduct, yung love, sex, and romance in the workplace. These are immorality issue. No? So again, yung due process, madali lang yung due process eh. Yan sinasabi ko sa inyo eh. Ito, classification ito ng mga offenses ha. Sa serious misconduct, nandyan ang fighting inside company premises. I-classify mo yan. Light ba yan? First offense, less grave or grave. Reporting for work under the influence of drugs. May confirmatory test, positive. Tanggal na yan, wala nang rehabilitation. Illegal possession of drugs, intriguing against honor, posting derogatory and malicious remarks in the social media, grave discourtesy or insult, sexual harassment. Ito, insubordination, willful refusal to comply with instruction, refusal to submit random drug test. Natanggal siya hindi sa dahil sa drug, kundi ayaw magpapadrug test. Refusal to submit a written explanation. Refusal to be transferred to another position or another assignment. Refusal to comply with standard operating procedure or refusal to follow the manual. Kita mo? Fraud, stealing company property, qualified theft, pwede criminal offense yan. Mabilanggo ka na, matanggal ka pa sa trabaho. Stealing official records, stealing company documents or trademarks, stealing clients from yung employer mo, may mga kliyente, tapos nagtayo ka ng negosyo on the side, tuloy ka pa rin ng empleo, meron ka lang dami na ibang tao, tapos yung ibang mga kliyente dito, nilipat mo doon sa negosyo mo, that is punishable by dismissal. Falsification of documents, altering receipt in the submission of liquidation reports, falsification of time records, using company fund for personal use, using company property like car, using for personal use, bringing income, bringing home company property without permission, and all other forms of dishonesty. Conflict of interest. Nagtrabaho ka sa Pepsi Cola, tapos nagbakasyon ka sa Pepsi Cola, tapos nag-part-time ka sa Coca-Cola, dapat tanggalin ka talaga. Accepting bribes from suppliers, favoring relatives in company transactions, moonlighting. Alam mo, ang marami nangyayari dyan sa PhilHealth, sa palagay ko, maraming problema yung PhilHealth talaga. Yung mga overpricing, engaging in competitive business, serving competitors. Dito naman sa gross and habitual neglect of duty, ganod, nandiyan yung excessive absenteeism. Ngayon, tatanungin niyo ako, attorney, ano ba yung excessive? Sagot ko sa inyo. Every employer has the right to define kung anong limit ng absenteeism. Halimbawa, sabihin mo, in 1 month, you should not be absent twice. Or in 1 year, you should not be absent 12 times, more than 12 times. Because kung wala kayong limit na number, yung word na excessive, wala yung basis. It's just subjective judgment. So you should always put a number. Halimbawa, tardiness. Bibilangin ilang minuto kang late sa isang linggo. Meron kang kuta, lumambas ka dyan. Suspension yan. Bawat number of minutes. Yan. Pero pag pandemic, pwede ba mag-issue ang management ng memo na moratorium muna tayo sa mga tardiness kasi we have to understand our people. They have to line up sa transportation. Hirap na hirap. No? Ang dami pang protocol ngayon. So, kailangan meron din namang puso yung company rules. So, yung mga chronic tardiness at saka habitual absenteeism, depende rin yan sa posisyon. Kasi kung ang posisyon mo, operating room nurse ka, or ICU nurse ka, kailangan kunti lang ang absent mo, hindi pwede. Ordinaryo kang clerk, pwedeng luwagan kay. Pero pag ang posisyon is very important, critical. Yan, poor performance. Yung gross negligence resulting to damage to property or resulting to injury. Itong mabigat, assault against a superior, challenging a superior to a fight, gross disrespect, libel. Ano? Yung mga ganun, tanggal ng empleyado niyan, nasa libro na yan. Yan, marami ako dito, pero hindi ko na i-discuss lahat yan kasi ito, ang tanong nila, Sir, bakit ba natatalo ang kaso? Sir, bakit natatalo kami? Nagnakaw na ga yung empleyado or sobra-sobra ng absent tapos natalo pa kami? Ito ang sagot, ang answer dito. Unang-una, lack of documentation. Sabihin nyo, sobrang dami ng absent yan, sir. Pero tingnan mo yung 201 file, walang records. Tapos mag-submit kayo ng dokumento, Xerox copy, walang certified true copy. Dapat, ang suggestion ko sa inyo, bawat HR manager, mag-designate kayo ng isang staff under you na siya yung magtatak ng certified true copy. Titingnan mo sa original. Ang lahat ng pag-xerox, lahat ng pag-duplicate, idadaan natin sa record officer para may control tayo sa mga dokumento natin. At kung isubmit ng abogado natin sa NLRC, dapat may certified true copy. At ang dokumento, permado, may date, at saka may page. Perma, pizza, pahina. Certified true copy. Ganon. Talo tayo kahit galing pa abogado natin, wala tayong ebidensya. Ang ebidensya natin, hindi sertipikado, hindi tama yung ebidensya natin. Maniwala kayo sa akin, labor arbiter ako in 1974 eh. I was the youngest labor arbiter in the whole Philippines. 27 years old. I became a lawyer 24 years old. Pag 27, in-appoint ako presidente, judge na ako ng labor cases. Alam ko yung sinasabi ko, maniwala kayo sa akin. Mag-submit kayo ng Xerox copy, walang certified true copy, talo kayo. That document is not admissible in evidence. It is not properly identified. Lack of substantive due process. O, nagtanggal kayo, walang just cause. O, hindi nyo napatunayan yung stealing. Yung gwardiya, bumaliktad. Tumestigos in favor of the employee. O, walang entry sa logbook. Kung nagnakaw yan, dumaan dito yan, ba't hindi yan nilagay sa logbook? Yan. When dismissal was affected with recklessly or maliciously. Yung bang pinag-initan lang siya ng manager niya na nagalit yung manager niya kasi sobrang gwapo. Yung manager sobrang pangit. Nainggit siya doon sa subordinate niya. Hinanapan ng paraan matanggal. Malicious, reckless, walang job process, and then wrong lawyer. Wrong lawyer kasi ang kaso natin labor case, tapos ang kinuha mo criminal lawyer. O di talo kayo. Ang sakit cardio, kumuha kayo ng OB-GYN, di naraspahan kayo. Yan. Wrong lawyer. Yan ang dahilan yan, wrong lawyer. So kung gusto niyo manalo, kailangan mamili kayo ng magaling na lawyer. Yung experience. Hindi lang, he does not only know the law, he also knows the judge. He knows the arbiter. May mga kakilala sa dole. Oh. Iba na yung may pinagsamahan. Then you have complete and correct document. You have substantive due process. We have procedural due process. You have full knowledge of the law. Ang HR, magaling sa labor law. You have an excellent lawyer. And then the arbiter is fair. Yeah. Ganun lang yun. Anong tatlong klaseng ebidensya? Oral testimony. Yung oral testimony, lagay yan sa affidavit. Ang affidavit, naging documentary na. Pero pag real evidence, yung laptop na ninakaw, real evidence yun. Kung sinaksak siya, yung ginamit na knife na panaksak, yun ang real evidence. Ang testimony, testimonial evidence. Ang papel, documentary evidence. Ang thing is real evidence. Simple lang yun eh. Oh. Substantial evidence, kailangan natin. Ito yung sinabi ko, certified true copy. Certified true copy. Hindi yung mag-xerox kayo ng xerox. Wala naman certification na that is the faithful reproduction of the original. O, hindi yan tanggapin. O. Yan. Ang tanong, Yung bang respondent, yung empleyado, may karapatang magdala ng abogado? Yes. Yes. Kaya kayo, kung kayo hindi kayo abogado at hindi kayo komportable na haharap sa abogado, di-invite nyo yung legal counsel nyo. Although you are the one presiding, the legal counsel is beside you, sa harap mo nandun yung respondent employee. Do not call him accused. Kasi ang word na accused sa criminal lang yun. Ito, labor case ito, respondent siya. Ano ba yung constructive dismissal? Pag ang tao, dinimote mo, or binawasan mo ng sahod, or nilipat mo sa Timbuktu, dahil walang reason, hinaras mo, that is constructive dismissal. Ano naman yung preventive suspension? Kung ang kaso ay pagnanakaw or pagbabanta sa buhay, maaari mo siyang hindi napapasokin while the investigation is ongoing. Meaning, wala kang trabaho, pasok ka pag nag-imbestiga, diretso ka sa HR, pero hindi ka mag-report sa trabaho. Kasi hinamon mo ng saksakan yung boss mo eh. Baka upakan ka ng boss mo o ikaw naman ang ituloy mo yung panaksak. So, 30 days yan. I'll finish the investigation within 30 days. Kung hindi ko matapos yan, you will be reinstated in the payroll. Pero I will make sure na matapos ko yan. That is preventive suspension. When the presence of the employee poses a danger to the life or property of the employer. Kasi kung nagnakaw ito, baka sirain niya ngayon yung mga voucher. So dapat mawala siya. Pero kung na-found innocent siya, yung 30 days, bayaran yun. Pag guilty siya, wala na yung bayan. Kailangan ang investigation must be recorded. Pero pag tinape mo, kailangan huwag kang mag-violate ng anti-wiretapping law. Ilagay mo for the record that there is no objection to my tape recording this by tape record. No? Kasi ang anti-wiretapping law, hindi ka pwedeng mag-tape pag may mag-object. At saka yung tape recorded, hindi yan admissible in court. Kasi that can easily be manipulated. Diba? What happens if the employee under investigation resigns? Kung ako, I will not accept the resignation. Sabihin ko lang, your resignation is noted, but we will not act on it. We will finish the investigation. Kasi kung innocent ka, o malinis ka, bigyan kitang certificate of employment, malinis ka. Pero pag found guilty ka, you don't have to resign. We will terminate your services. Eh kung sabihin, sir, graceful exit para wala akong record. Well, kung ikaw ay A ka, type A kang empleyado, magaling ka, ngayon ka lang napasama, pagbibigyan kita. Pero kung simulat sa Paul, suwail ka, rebelde ka, intrigero ka, tamad ka pa, hindi kita pagbibigyan, tatanggalin kita. Mag-file ka ng kaso, haharapin kita. Ganon yun. You have to stand by your principle. Eh paano naman sir yung hindi nag-report for work, tapos hindi nag-text, hindi nag-email, basta nawala na lang. Tanggalin ba namin yan? Huwag mo munang tanggalin, padalhan mo ng sulat 2 times sa kanyang address. Sabihin mo, kung buhay ka pa, kung hindi ka na-COVID, or hindi ka natukhang, magpakita ka sa Monday. Monday is coming Monday, ha? That is 17 of August at 8 o'clock in the morning in the office of the HR manager. Kung buhay ka pa. Kung patay ka na, huwag ka nang magpakita. Magkaramdam ka. Twice yan, padala mo twice. Pag hindi dumating, yan, notice of specific charge for abandonment. Hindi yung basta-basta tanggalin mo kagad. Tapos schedule mo pa hearing, pa-explainin mo, walang explanation, walang appearance, o di saka ka mag-desisyon. Ganon. Ngayon, ang tanong, Sir, bigyan mo namin certificate of employment? Bigyan mo, pero ilagay mo, terminated for cause. The employment is terminated for cause, not the employee. Do not terminate the employee, because to terminate an employee is murder. Terminate the employment. Mali yung mga memo natin, ha. The employee is terminated. Murder yan. Baka mabilanggo ka because of your English. Your English is hazardous to my health.